So I think by now we know that the Tigray Defense Forces have left northern Shawa, the towns of Dese and Kombolcha, and also some parts of Afar. This has been confirmed by the spokesperson for Tigrayan Defense Forces. But what is really puzzling is the fact that the Tigrayans left these areas without fighting, and the withdrawal was very orderly, coordinated. They didn't leave their weapons and logistics behind. So you wonder whether there was some kind of deal that has been done with the government, because it wasn't just their orderly withdrawal. We also have Abiy Ahmed allowing some humanitarian aid into Tigray. Now, you remember there have been significant intensification of diplomatic effort to bring the two sides together. At the earlier stage, that did not work. But the fact that now Tigrayans are withdrawing, they are saying this is a strategic withdrawal. But it seems to me that there is probably some kind of deal that has been done between the two, which, for whatever reason, they are not telling the public. At this point, the question of whether there's a deal or not is really just an opinion, it's just a speculation based on the events that I see on the ground. We had that dramatic announcement by the Prime Minister that he is going to the battlefront to lead his armed forces. We knew at the time that there were expected shipments of new high-tech weapons, including drones. So the Prime Minister knew that he is going to have something that would help him. And at the same time, we saw that very orderly, coordinated withdrawal by the Tigrayans, while at the same time, the Ethiopian government allowing some aid to enter Tigray, something that they have resisted in the past. So the fact that this is happening suggests that there must be some kind of deal that has been done. Now, if a deal has indeed been agreed, it's very difficult to really say more without actually knowing what the details of that deal is. But if there is a possibility that this would ultimately lead to a permanent ceasefire and then a negotiation, then some kind of dialogue that would help solve Ethiopia its predicament, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But the problem is we don't know what the detail is. As a very symbolic, a very heroic move on his part. But to those who see what Abiy represents, what he stands for, as a return of a particular oppressive past, whatever he does is seen with some level of suspicion, but at the same time, I think it is being seen as a sign of an increasingly fascistic tendency in the country that manifests itself not just in the sense of a civilian prime minister who won the Nobel Peace Prize, going to the war front, as if he would be able to do what his military commanders were unable to do. Yes, it did have, I think, it did have the effect of mobilizing certain constituencies that supported him. But beyond that, I don't think it has significantly changed anything, and I don't think that would change how the majority of people in the south of the country, formerly oppressed people in that country, ethnic Tigrayans, not in the Tigray regional state, but in other parts of the country, organized by the government to do that, that is something plausible. I think this government has really gone to a place where it is inconceivable a couple of years ago to go to. You have now a government that is rounding up innocent ethnic Tigrayans from cities across Ethiopia, locking them behind bars, and now parading them before television as if these are prisoners of war, basically saying these are the prisoners of war that have been captured. So I would not be surprised if the Ethiopian government forced ethnic Tigrayans to go out. In fact, I have actually seen something to that effect on social media, that there is such a plan. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, but I don't think right now, in an area that is controlled under the Tigray government, we would see that kind of opposition, because it makes absolutely no sense for a Tigrayan population to basically protest against the only institution, the only government that has been defending them against not just Ethiopia's, but also from an enemy country from the north, that is Eritrea. It's also, I think, important to point out that the Tigrayan population, I think, supports overwhelmingly what the Tigray government is doing now. So I think it's highly likely that that is from other parts of Ethiopia. Well, I mean, that this conflict is not just between Tigrayans and the central government. It's also a war with the major ethnic group in Ethiopia, the Oromo. The Oromo Liberation Army has also been fighting against the government. What you have now in the country, apart from the conflict, is significant militarization of civilian life, where government has been rounding up ethnic Tigrayans, rounding up ethnic Oromos. Today, for example, there was a report of a journalist by the name of Iyaspe Tesfaye that was picked up from his house. His crime was simply to encourage people to have a civil discourse, a critical conversation about the future of the country. So if the government continues to target people whose main mechanism of struggle is basically to use the media and their voice to get their message across, to influence government policy. If these people were to be arrested and jailed, then of course the government is completely shutting off whatever has been there for peaceful struggle, which means the only way people can now resist what the government is doing is through means of violence. And it's precisely, I think, the points that Nelson Mandela was articulating before the apartheid court, when he said apartheid has left us with absolutely no other option except taking up arms. And I think that is something similar that we see in Ethiopia now. The government is saying no negotiation, no debate, no discourse. This is the only language. That is the implication. And if we continue down that path, I think there may be, no country over which Ethiopians would fight in few years' time.